Uh-oh. It's going to be embarrassing, isn't it? Let's reflect on some mistakes, gentlemen. The gentlemen that I'm referring to, if you're listening rather than watching, they be... How would I have said that? I've completely cocked up the grammar there. They are... I've framed it horribly. Either way, JB and Kieran are here. And we're going to talk about things that we're a bit ashamed to admit, but we're gonna puff out our chests and we're going to acknowledge they happened. We're going to do 2 each. You're then going to comment with yours, and we're all going to have a jolly good time. So, we all spent time on T-Nation forums. We all spent time on bodybuilding.com. We've all been on a similar training journey. I'm sure there's some crossover here, so I'm going first to get mine out of the way. Number 1. I admit that I got wrong for an extended period of time that the angry carb goblins would make you very fat if you ate carbohydrates after 6 p.m. Remember that one?
I do. Remember it well.
Did you do it?
Oh, yeah.
Kieran?
No, I've always been a seafood diet.
Oh, well, I was until I tried to get really lean and then stopped eating carbs after 6 p.m. So yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, there was a bro science-y theory for a long time that if you ate carbs after 6 p.m., somehow that would make you more fat than eating carbs before 6 p.m. And yeah, that Kool-Aid was consumed by me and many others, to be fair, and JB, in fact. We are the Kool-Aid drinkers here. And yeah, I stuck to it religiously for about 6 months until I crossed a few time zones. And it made me think, but 7 p.m. here is different to 7 p.m. elsewhere, and I don't see the carb goblins coming for me. It did get me very lean, but what happened was I was eating less. Because when you think dinner is rice or pasta and chicken, and you go, I'm just going to have chicken and broccoli, you remove a macronutrient and eat less. So as with all, here's a diet rule for you, all it inevitably does is make you eat less calories. But yeah, I advocated for others not eating carbs after 6 p.m. and found myself having bran flakes at like 5:45 occasionally. Ridiculous.
Got to get them in.
What a moron. I think I was I 17, 18? Either way. Never actually did meet a carb goblin. Unless. Am I looking at? No.
You never know.
I don't know. Well, lizard people. Maybe they're the carb goblins. Anyway, let's not digress too much. JB?
My one is, so the company that used to be run by him is massive, so I'm not going to mention what it is, but you'll probably be able to guess between us, considering our reading history on the internet. So there was this program that he ran for 2 weeks at a time, and you would train twice a day for 6 days, and you had the privilege of only training once on the 7th day. So you used to do that for 2 weeks.
The Sabbath.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So my friend and I got to the summer holidays. We were like 17 or 18 at the time. We were like, shit, we can now do this program. The gains are going to be off the chart. It's going to be so good. Much like Fergus, I was also following an incredibly restrictive diet. There was no fucking chance I was going to be able to get through twice a day training. However, due to whatever you want to call it, whether it's self-hatred or just absolute drive to get it done, I managed to make it through 6 days of near, like, taking sets to failure. By day 9, I ended up getting a throat infection. I ended up getting an ulcer in my throat. I think I was probably just so depleted and run down. I ended up in hospital.
There you go.
Yeah.
Did they test you for rhabdo as well?
Yeah. But probably would have been
throat rhabdo.
My kidney values were high. Yeah. It was probably wasn't my finest moment. But yeah, just my sheer drive to succeed in this task got me in the hospital.
Yeah, character building stuff.
Yeah.
Character building stuff. There we are. So, I mean, maybe that's where your tolerance for double days began.
This is very true. Yeah, maybe. Just did them completely wrong.
So you made it through one Sabbath, effectively.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And I want to meet the people who actually managed to make it through this twice a day, because the program was savage. It was like 10 sets of 5 snatch grip deadlifts off a podium with a 4-second eccentric, like all sorts of weird shit. But of course, you just read it and you're like, this looks great, until you do it and end up in the hospital.
Summer holidays as a kid, though. You've got so much time. You're like, I've trained twice today and I've still got the rest of the day to go. This is amazing. Turns on Xbox. And
yeah, but that's what normal kids would have been doing, not like this idiot.
yeah. Yeah. All right.
We're
nice.
a special breed.
Nice. Yeah, we are. Yeah. Oh, dear. Well, lessons learned. Lessons learned. The game is the game. Kieran?
I ended up doing the complete opposite to what it sounds like you guys did in terms of early influences in my training. So I was very much counterculture. I don't want to train for aesthetics. only people who are really vain do that. I don't want to do that. I want to power lift. And so my early inspirations were strong lifts, and then mad cow, and then all of the variations of 5x5 and all of that, and gallon of milk a day and all of that crazy stuff. I ended up getting extremely fat to be very mediocre at powerlifting with nothing to show for it once I lost the fat.
It's a pretty common pipeline.
It really is. I never did any accessories. It was barbell lifts only. Curls are for the vain. Maybe you're allowed to do some hammer curls for elbow health, and that was about it.
Deck chair in the gym.
Oh,
Yeah.
very much the type.
Very
Much the type. And ultimately, I thought that getting to 100 kilograms body weight was what was going to make me look absolutely massive, and therefore look like these enhanced powerlifters that I was looking up to. Completely negating the fact that they were all single-digit body fat, and funnily enough, that's what made them look absolutely jacked. Plus the copious amounts of drugs. But we'll push past that because 17-year-old Kieran didn't know any better, and got enormously fat. I got up to nearly 100 kilograms body weight at 5'11", which I don't know if any of you have seen the picture of me when I was about 20. My face genuinely was round.
You look like if the Milky Bar Kid ate the Milky Bar Kid.
Yeah, the moon emoji on your phone that's got the smiley face.
Yeah,
I looked like the white moon emoji on the Apple keyboard. That's what I looked like, and it's niche, I know, but when you see it,
you've been called that before.
Yeah,
that's not an original thought.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So yeah, don't think that powerlifting is the be end and end all. Don't get fat for a sport that you're very mediocre at, and would have been better served by staying in an appropriate weight class for you.
And you probably would have been just as strong.
Absolutely, I would have been just as strong. I wouldn't have had 20 kilograms to fat to lose, and I would have had something underneath it when I did lose that fat because I would have done my accessories.
Oh, the ignorance of youth, eh? Okay, I'm going to try and think a little bit less. Nah, this was when I was 18 as well. Okay, so post-rugby, I kept training as if I was a rugby player, but didn't have a need to be a rugby player anymore. So I just got really into self-driven health and fitness. Is kind of how I discovered this world, was one too many concussions. Became quite self-aware in terms of calories, nutrition, and all that sort of stuff. I was doing fasted cardio in the morning, all that sort of good stuff, lifting 4 or 5 days a week, and I started recreationally running. And my approach to this was Tuesday, 5K. That's the thing people run, isn't it? Thursday, 10K. That's also the thing people run, isn't it? However, because this was all just spliced together and put together with the time I had available to do whatever, there was no programming thought. There was just a gap in the day. How do I fill it? The 5Ks and 10Ks were done at pretty much the exact same pace all the time. However, that pace was not in what we would refer as to a aerobic zone. It was what I would call the seeing God zone. And after about 4 weeks of doing this, I wasn't really getting any quicker. I was kind of just beating each time by a couple of seconds each time. And I remember hearing about someone's dad that had done a marathon. And I just could not comprehend how that person had done a marathon. Because I've had those 10Ks, done all these things. It's absolutely insane. I can't believe this at all. I think my 10K at the time was like full send was like 41:30 or something. But I think I negative split it. I think positive split it. I think my dad watched me in a Bella Houston Park in Glasgow run a 18:45 5K and then finish at like 41:34. Yeah, just horrendous. Just the biggest blow up of the century. And I mean, he said he saw me, he was sat in his car, he saw me run past with a whole bunch of people I didn't really have a right to be running alongside, and thought, oh boy. And then he saw them run past, and I was not with them on the second lap. But nonetheless, I had no comprehension of how someone could run a marathon because I had not considered the simple possibility of running slower for the sake of going further, and how this was a relative scale where pace would decrease with distance. 6 weeks of recreation running, 5Ks Tuesdays, 10Ks Thursdays, tore my calf, didn't run again until 2018, and I tore my calf in 2013. So there you are. That was a real fast track to most of the conversations we have with athletes that join us that say they don't like running because they are the same. They go full tilt all the time and never consider the possibility of maybe just slowing it down a little bit. So I learned the hard way. But
see it all the time.
I'm now a big proponent of aerobic and zone 2 training, not just for the development benefits, but also for the peacefulness that it provides and how much that inadvertently calms me down from being the sort of person that feels I have to absolutely send it all of the time on a 5K and a 10K until, obviously, it's time to do so, in which case the cap goes backwards. James?
I used to spend an ungodly sum of money on supplements. So I know we keep circling back to this T Nation website. So for those of you who aren't in the know, it used to be kind of like, it was almost like a front for a supplement company, wasn't it?
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
their supplements would have been, well, they were US based, weren't they? So it would have been so expensive to import it. So I was like, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to like lab my own. So I'm going to go buy the raw powders of all this stuff, try and work out exactly what I need. I've got no idea what it would have cost in today's money back like 20 years ago, whenever it was, but it was a lot of money back then. So anyway, I turned my mum's kitchen into something out of Breaking Bad with all these fucking powders and scales and like scoops everywhere. I made, it was like, I've called like something shit, like workout fuel or something. So I made my own, the JB version of workout fuel. The first time I made it, I must have dosed something wrong or whatever it was, because I didn't even make it to the gym. I think I got myself so stimmed up, I just threw up on the field, which was like en route to the gym. So I bought this massive like jug because they were like, hydration's so important. Literally didn't even make it to the gym first time. All that money down the Swanee.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Oh, well. You considered being a chemist, and it wasn't for you. It wasn't. Most chemists don't chunder in fields on their way to work. There's something powerful about being a young man really desperate to get jacked, isn't there?
100%. Like, it's like that twice a day training thing. I would have done anything. Like, literally.
But
young and impressionable.
But the main
just
thing
a
is,
fucking
you
idiot.
you were trying something.
Well,
which,
it's true.
again, for many years, I liked the idea of doing it, but all you do is like you do press-ups,
Yeah.
30 press-ups, and then sort of stare in the mirror and then be like, oh, I'm not jacked yet, it's bullshit, and just not do it again for another year or so. But yeah, I think when you the biggest win is when you actually commit to giving it a go and start being patient with it. But the mistakes you make along the way are hilarious. Kieran?
In the aspect of mistakes, not necessarily as funny, I think anyone that's been injured can relate to this. All of my issues come back to, particularly my early days, picking back up where I left off after injuries. I've done this so many times, and funnily enough, it's why I had a period of being so injured so often in my early career, if you want to call it that, where you finish a training cycle, you were repping 140 kilograms on squats, whatever it was, hurt your back, come back, well, I can squat 140 kilograms. And you put 140 kilograms on the bar, and 2 weeks into the training cycle, you've hurt your back again. Wonder why that keeps happening. Well, I didn't learn that lesson for quite a long time, and I think there's a lot of ego that goes into coming back from injuries, particularly when we're younger, and not appreciating that you've lost a lot of tolerance. It's something I've had to learn the hard way through more serious injuries that took me out for much longer periods of time. Some disc herniations, tore my bicep, things like that, where drastically altered how I trained for a long time. I think I finally now at my late 20s have finally learned that injuries set you back. You have to appreciate that you are no longer quite the athlete that you were, and you have to be quite honest with where you're at, and don't try and compare yourself to the athlete you used to be. Just know that you'll get back there eventually, and have faith that you will, but just accept that you are not that athlete right now, and that you need to be patient. And I was not patient so many times.
Common. Very common.
Yeah.
You bloody commoner. Oh,
With the
what a fun
poshest
word.
accent.
Yeah. You're from Wales, are you? Yeah? Unfortunately, I have an English accent in Scotland, which doesn't go down well. Edinburgh is England with gift shops, after all. Let's do one more round. I'm going to let's share our most embarrassing training moments. Hang on, let me just check the archive. It's a big archive. No, I think there's one that was pretty bad, actually. I've spoken about pissing myself in triathlons before. I pissed myself alone on tenacity at a point that no one knew about, just because there was no toilets nearby and I didn't want to get a indecent exposure charge. But we don't need to dwell on that. That's old news. Yes. I know the one. So, Durham, third year at university. I was very strong. Powerlifting was my focus. My body weight was about 102 kilos, and I was going through a phase of wearing Nike Hyper KOs, which are the MMA shoes, because they were very flat and looked sick at the time, and doing all of my lifting in leggings, which I still do sometimes because it's the best way to get knee sleeves on and off if it's beyond 4 degrees Celsius, but mainly also because it kind of just made me look stronger.
It was the thing.
It was the thing. Yeah. I kind of run out of justifications there. Beyond, it was just.
No, we all did it.
I was like, wait a minute, why did I do that? Oh no, surely that wasn't the only reason. So this was a Globo gym. It was called Freeman's Quay in Durham. If anyone knows the area, if anyone listening knows Durham. So the university gym was a bit further away from where we were staying in third year, and then there was this Freeman's Quay place which I used when I couldn't get into the performance suite at the actual Durham gym. So I used to train raw conjugate style training, where I'd have a heavy variation lower on the Monday, heavy variation upper on the Tuesday, and then dynamic Thursday, Friday. And that was my training week. So a really fun way of training, really, really enjoyed it. It kind of kept me enjoying powerlifting for another 2 years. And this was probably up there with the strongest I've ever been. I worked up to a 240 kilo squat this day with barbells that were not rated for as much as that. And I fucking sunk it and nailed it. Was really, really happy. Didn't have a spotter, 240 kilo squat. I was in the habit of sort of getting myself quite hyped up. Chalk on the bar, sort of like resting my head on it, getting all slipknotty and weird. I had a couple of friends that were training nearby that were paying attention, so they were kind of supporting me. There was a little bit of hype on it as well, and they were kind of nearby if there was a disaster. But there were safety bars, and I was happy dumping a barbell. But I'd made some noise. So there are a few people in the gym that think, what the fucking hell's going on over there? Like, fucking some gimp in blue leggings, talking like that. And I was like, okay, right, so I better sink this. One of the best reps I've ever done in my life, to the point where I was very, very hyped at the top of the lift. But the bar was whipping a little bit. So as I walked it in, I slammed the bar in, it whipped, and then wedged itself out of the J-hook on the right. But I didn't know that until I'd let go of the bar. So I watched all 100 kilos it would have been, wouldn't it? No, 110 kilos. 110 kilos slide off to the right-hand side before the barbell then flipped aggressively and 110 kilos fell over to the left-hand side. And the whole gym turns around to see some meathead in knee wraps, bright blue leggings, that's got a line of chalk across his forehead with burst blood vessels under his eyeballs, and his mates all around him looking pretty amped up, staring at the gym with his eyes wide open going, oh my goodness, what have I done? And I wasn't allowed back in the gym. They said I was disruptive. So you reap what you sow, but it was a very clean 240 kilo rep. So yeah, not proud of that one, but I'm glad that I've shared. James.
I would say this is the only literal disaster I've ever had in a gym. So I went to a gym I've never been to before, and my sister had just moved house. So I was like, right, I'm going to go visit, but en route, I'm going to go get some training done. So anyway, incline bench was the first exercise to do. Was warming up, 60 kilos, 80 kilos. Last warm up at 100 kilos, plan to do 120. At the bottom of the first rep of 100 kilos, all of a sudden my shoulder just stopped working, and it made a noise. And I was like, oh shit, have I torn my pec? Couldn't work out what was going on, but I was pinned. The gym was empty because it was very early, and I was looking around like, help. The cleaner comes in and like rushes over, couldn't like between us couldn't get it off because I literally had nothing in this shoulder. Managed to roll it onto my lap, stood up with the bar, screamed in pain as I tried to hold it with my right arm. Anyway, I was like, well, this session's over. So dumped the bar, went to the changing rooms, couldn't get dressed because my arm wasn't working. So I soon came to the realization, like, shit, I need to go to a hospital here. So I couldn't get my shirt on. So like some sort of weird fucking flasher, I had my like coat over this like non-functioning arm with like naked skin showing underneath. Get myself to hospital. Turns out I dislocated my shoulder in the gym. Yeah, it wasn't my finest moment.
And the cleaner wasn't Anatoly.
No, sadly not. No, but he would have come in bloody good. Thanks for that. Yeah,
clean. Yes. That's unfortunate. Yeah, well, that's the one time you needed him.
Yeah.
And
to my point earlier, touch wood, I've never been injured other than warming up or like.
It is funny because you can be so confident, like without safeties at lightweights or whatever, and you can just your pec can just go. I think the one time I've torn my pec, it was a 120 kilo warm up set. I just pressed on the way up after a pause rep, and it just felt like someone just pinged a string across, ding. I was like, oh. It felt like it started here at the bottom of my right pec and just went to the top of my shoulder, like just like, whoop. Well, It's what I imagined tearing a pec feels like, but okay. And then I unracked it, and it was just screaming at me. I was like, yes, I see what's happened here. Well, that's me. I was like, tried some rowing motion and any sort of tension here. I was like, okay, no. Home gym at the time, thankfully, so I just opened the door, and I was done. But it was still, yeah. It was. If I hadn't had the safeties and it had been a worse tear, then I would have just dropped it. And 120 kilos at the time was not something that was in any way intimidating. But 120 kilos landing in your chest is somewhat intimidating. So, okay, good lesson there. Don't dislocate your shoulder on an incline bench, and make sure your cleaner is Anatoly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although he's been rumbled for something recently. I saw. I mean, it's obviously all contrived.
I think that's what I'd seen.
Is that the rumbling?
I think I'd seen that.
People shocked by this?
It was staged. Or
Wow.
I'm not sure.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. And water is wet.
Yeah.
Anyway, Milky Bar Kid that ate the Milky Bar Kid. What's your last one?
I didn't have any crazy ones outside of I've knocked myself out with a front squat in terms of you know in it.
That's good.
Yeah, chokes you
Cuts off
out.
the old
Just
windpipe.
puts
Did
in a-
you thriller backwards or did you fall forwards?
No, fold forward and just delete
Kieran.
button.
There's two. That's
Delete button. The
You should have just embellished for the story there. That was really good. Yeah. Just full on MJ'd it.
wasn't embarrassing because I was the only one there, but the closest I've come to disaster was actually on the bike and not checking my equipment, and
I do that
this
all the
was
time.
easily done. I went for a ride. I'd gone back home to my mum's over Christmas. I think it was 2 years ago now. Would have been 2 years ago because I was still on my BMC, my trusty first nice road bike. And where my mum lives in rural Wales, there is not a lot of flat and there is a huge amount of uphill and downhill. And from the door of this route, it is entirely uphill. So where this was at the time, if anybody knows South Wales well, it was up Bettis Mountain. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go up Bettis Mountain, and if anyone knows it, there's a descent, and it is absolutely ridiculous how fast you can go, because it is like airstrip straight off the top of this mountain, and it's all downhill, and you can see for miles. It's a closed road. Well, it's not closed, but it may as well be a closed road for how little traffic you see. So I hit, I want to say 85 kilometers an hour. It was it's up there. It's where I set my fastest descent, and this was probably up there. This is probably my second fastest descent. Started to realise I had no brakes. None whatsoever. Like white knuckling my brake levers hitting all the way. I don't know if you've ever had this, where your brakes need a blade.
I had this in tenacity.
Yeah, so when
back.
you...
This is just as an aside, this is why I don't ride bikes. Yeah, just to put it out there.
You find yourself in situations like this where your brakes need a bleed, and if you've ever been in the situation, there's no pressure on the brakes whatsoever, so your levers are just hitting the handlebars doing absolutely nothing. And I was starting to panic. The speed was picking up to the point where I was getting the speed wobbles, if you've ever had that, where your bike starts to almost like resonate, and it's like trying to shake you off it. And I now know that it's a very simple fix. You just put your thighs on the top tube and it dampens out the vibrations and off you go. I didn't know how to fix this. So I was getting the speed wobbles. I had no brakes, and I was starting to think, one, if a car comes, I can't stop. I am going into a head-on collision here. And I started
And
to
you
think,
couldn't signal or anything with your hands.
no, because you're just white knuckling the
You
bars.
just be shaking your head like,
yeah,
no.
literally, there is nothing you can do. And I was starting to think about, right, I'm going to come off damage control, which grass verge looks the comfiest. And the only thing I could do was just trust that no car was going to come and ride out the entire descent and just trust that I made it to the uphill. And that's what I did. I just had to go the entire descent, wait for the uphill to lose enough speed and jump off the bike. And it was the closest I've ever come to complete and utter disaster on the bike. So
Yeah, it would have been bad. That would have been a pretty grim headline, I think. Yeah.
check your equipment before you ride.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I had no breaks between Bristol and Bath. And there are a few moments.
There's a lot of hills.
Yeah, there are. There are a few moments where I thought this was a bit reckless, but I was like, I'm not going to ride the tri-bike. The choice was ride the tri-bike on the hills or have no brakes. And I was like, nah, no brakes. I'll take them. Closed roads, of course. There was no one else around me. So, all right, that was good fun. Sharing is caring, and I feel like we've all dipped our toe into some nostalgia there. That was good. What a time to be alive. Simpler times. I actually feel quite sad now. T-Nation, bodybuilding.com. The ignorance of youth. Blissful. We used to play a lot of RuneScape then too, and I was a better skateboarder and a better golfer.
What a time.
What a time. Anyway, what a time we've had too. What a time you'll have if you sign up to our coaching, and you can do that down below. Thank you and goodbye.